Good
So,
evening, everybody.
now everybody speak at once.
Yeah, I was waiting. Usually Bruce kicks it right off, but
I did kick it right off, but I had my microphone on mute. Boomer moment number one. There we
I
go.
want everybody out there who's watching this, to know that we really are professionals as the screen goes blank.
Sure. Just keep telling yourself that. Okay. Get the count started. That's Boomer moment one for Bruce, and we are at Table Breakers. This is the Fae Deep Dive Part 2. Tonight we will be discussing Fae and primarily locations of the Fae realms to the best of my ability and the best of my panel's ability. We may also venture to other Fae topics as well that were unresolved from last week, and we reserve the right to extend this discussion on the Fae one more evening. For those of you that are wondering, wait, why is Bruce not showing food? We're not showing his camera. Well, yeah, I've got food there. Sorry. So, anyway, next to me is a crafting gamer with his sanctioned only hands account. On the men below him is Kai. His head hurts. Connell Cigar DM. Jade. And then Mr. Baron G Rock at the Hall of Justice.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
See, I thought that was the hall of the never-ending staircase.
Now that's the cardio table right there.
Ah.
See, and I always thought it looked like a future set for the Borderlands games.
That could have worked. Well, Mr. Garrett, before I go into my questions about Fae, did you want to rehash or did you want to go over anything that we discussed last week about the Fae realms, the Fae creatures, etc.?
I'm lucky to remember what I did yesterday. To be honest,
He has drank and slept since then.
no, it's been a week. So yeah.
Okay, I've definitely drank and slept since then. If you don't believe me drinking, just watch Max's show. Holy shit!
Yeah, he drank all of Sunday.
That was a really funny show, though. I mean, you really
God.
got to have. I almost want to invite Mildra and Xanadu on here, just so.
No, because I don't want to hear about any D4s. I don't want to hear about the yogurt that's milked from one single goat in somewhere in the Himalayas or something. I just don't care.
You do a disservice to the Yogurt Association of the world. I can't believe you.
You know what? One squirt of yogurt's just as good as another. So yeah.
I almost want to go to the movies with Lauren Boebert. Speaking of yogurt, my bad. So
it's all fun and games till you take it in the eye, then it burns.
Oh my God. So in the chat, we have our friend Six Nation 31 Kings, our dirty campaigner, Mr. Flady1 with Flady1 Gaming, and Soy-Based Jeremy strides in as well. Hey!
Aria. I think we're good about. I think we're done about talking about 20 cc's of Dream Killer.
Yes.
I just think that all of the things that you guys talked about in that Friday night stream was very important, and I couldn't stop laughing watching you drink and then Bear and fucking Maxter Max just lose their absolute minds.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about that one. I was fairly well behaved on that one. Is when Max was doing his vet stream.
Yeah.
I just never stopped drinking.
And I feel sorry for the gentleman from Palladium, because I swear to God, he wanted to leave, but it was like, when you drive down the highway and you see a wreck, you can't help but slow down and watch. That was where he was at for the last 4 hours of that stream. Literally.
It wasn't a wreck. That was not a wreck. You guys were following a burning garbage truck, and it was smoldering as it combusted down the road.
That is how we get to the land of the Fei. We followed the burning garbage truck.
So, in your experience, Connell, you're going to start this off. Actually, no, wait. Kai's still here. Kai, with the realms of the Fae.
Yes.
And this might kill 20 minutes of our stream.
All right.
That's okay.
Or Kai, one of the two.
or it may render Kai inert. I don't know. But I want to know, when you're dealing with Fae locations, as a GM, how do you prepare your world, and that includes how do you prepare your players for an insertion like that? What do you do to run the Fae realms?
Usually I make the border between the real world and the Fae realm it's slow before you figure out you're there. And it's all in describing things. It's like the fun part is because if you do the trick of you describe everything, so and eventually your players are going to tune out their thoughts. Like, I don't care about every last tree bush and Eddie in the world in the river that they're traveling down, and then slowly you just and they're not paying attention, or at least most of them aren't, and you start to change the colors a little bit. Things get a little bit more fantastical. The environment becomes more interesting, more entertaining, more different, and then it's like the proportions start to change, and they don't realize that they've entered into the first shell of the Feywilds, and then you give them a chance to take it in, and they're used to playing. This is D&D. We're playing on a magical realm. It's a wonderful place where everything's a little bit where the darkness is a little bit darker, the shadows are a little bit longer, the sun's a little brighter, colors are a little thinner, are a little different, and the animals are a little bit weirder. But of course, it's D&D. Everything's fucking weird. So if you throw an 8-legged squirrel at somebody, they're not going to really care that much. This is D&D, and then they keep pushing forward and a little bit further, and then they travel into the next little realm. You get little pockets of things start to really don't look right, don't feel right. You're starting to go into where the rules of what reality is start to feel more less grounded, more malleable, more how you would imagine things being if it was a more the trees are larger, or the river's a little bit you swear you see something in the depths of a river that shouldn't be that deep, but it's. And then you realize that you're now starting to get closer to the actual wilds, and the Fae start to manifest, and this is where you start realizing that you're no longer you might see a few beacons, anchor points of reality that are still holding fast as you travel into the Fae realms, and you're like, wait, where am I? Where are we? As you start seeing this giant runestone that's sitting here, anchoring a small place where the world still feels right. It still seems right around the rocks, but you're not near the rocks. You're adventuring. You're out here where the colors are off, and the creatures are out there. And then you travel further into it, and that's when your players realize we're no longer where you describe that point where you transition from black and white to Technicolor. And your players start realizing we're not anywhere proper anymore. And it's like, you don't tell them that, you've been traveling in this area for 3-4 days. What are you doing? How are you doing this? And then you start realizing that thing, there's a perpetual aurora borealis happening over our heads, or you just have more fun trying to describe the land and the animals and the creatures, the plants, and your players kind of go, in that moment when they start feeling uncomfortable because they realize that things are no longer what they know, what they want, what they're used to, and their sense of adventure goes, we're starting to reach an area where he's like, and because of course you have players who are always a little bit on the crazy side. Who goes, oh, we're gonna keep on, we're gonna keep on going. We've already crossed the barrier of we've gone too far. Let's keep on going, and then you push them into the where water starts to water flows up, or castles in the clouds, or other weird ass this is where it leaves the world that you know, and now it becomes the world that you dream, and the world of your nightmares. And this is where the Fae are their best, the strongest. It's where you don't have very much to hold on to anymore. Where the strength of being confident that the ground will always be hard. Down, like gravity pulls you down, the sky is up, water always falls down. Now you start going into rules don't apply as much. Like gravity doesn't apply. The rules of the world stop being functioning, and you might find small isolated pockets where those are the pockets where the Fae who don't have shape changing abilities still inhabit. They still reside there. They play around and they toy with you because you're there. Of course, they're going to lure you in because you're lost, you're confused, you're terrified because you're not where you're comfortable with. You're a mundane creature who's now in the most wonderful place possible, but it hates you because you also are locked and static. You're bringing banality and mundanity into their realm, so they hate you just as much as reality hates them when they're in your world. And now they're but they'll lure you into these nice little holdfasts, these little bastions, and in environments where they can just make you happier, lure you in, make you calm. You don't want to run away. Now they've trapped you here. Now they're going to play with you, and eventually, slowly unmake you, because why are you so locked into your mundane, boring, mortal shell? We're going to play with you until you become something better in their mind. Something more fitting of a world where reality isn't fixed, where there isn't a consensus behind it. And then you'll be able to survive. You won't want to go back to the real world, but you never know. Someone might come and rescue you. You don't know. And if my players get a little fearful, that's when I get to play with the plot line of, are you ready to go back? Have you been corrupted too much by the Fey Wilds? Would you even want to go back to this boring, mundane world where all the plot is happening? And eventually, a few people you lure into it, and then they just go, "No, I give up." And at that point, and go, "Your character is no longer in the campaign. I can now. You're now something completely different. You're free of this entire immortal campaign." But the world's now different from you, and they get to leave and make new characters. But that's okay. While the other ones get to go try to fight their way back to creation. Just remember, as far deep as you go, it's always one day back. So, if you can figure out your way back, anyway, that's how I would do it.
It's pretty in depth, but that really works well because you have to do a slow drip feed. You can't put the frogs in the boiling pot of water.
No.
And you have to put them in the pot, let them get used to the water, then start inching it upward. I'd also like to welcome our new member, Bear, the Gen X GM. Bear is an amazing individual, and he's got a lifetime of experiences he's done, and he's still a very young man. He joins us along with many others that are involved with, I guess you'd say, our little community. And I have to say thank you to Mr. Bear for joining up. You don't have to do that, but I really appreciate that. And I thank you, sir.
It's just the fact that you have Joe's face and you're talking, and I see Joe of the biggest of Dickus. Right. It's killing me.
once I finish this pizza, this dinner that I've got, I'll put my hands on screen. But Bear, you're doing good, man. Yes, and I appreciate that. I really do. We've got a few things in store, and I've got to catch up from something from last night. I'll announce that at the end of the show tonight, but I'll put it in the community notes as well for everybody, not just members and such. But really do appreciate you doing that. Also, Six Nations, good to see you, sir. And Flatey, did you get killed in the clan war, sir? Because that was my experience about 90% of the time I played EVE Online.
Yes.
Unless you're hiding and mining and using a third party to ship everything, that's about right.
Six Nation 31 Kings has a really great piece here. Bear has great content both in the realm of gaming and in real life. He does.
This is
If
true.
you're a young man and you like the hobby, you like the gaming, go over to Bear's channel. It's like having a good friend say, here's my uncle, or here's a good guy. Just hang out, absorb it, take some life lessons. Don't take the lumps if you can avoid it. Connell,
Right.
with you, with the Fae.
I see. The problem is, Kai, you're one of my favorite people, but it really sucks following after you. Because everything I was thinking, everything I was going to say, you said it because it's right. It's great. It makes sense. And well, fuck off. No.
Wait.
Until my
Nice.
I will fuck off when my message kicks in. And
Yeah,
I'll turn
okay.
off.
I will gladly take that blame.
Same here. All right. There's a couple ways I like to do it. I kind of like Ravenloft's concept. Most of us in real life have gone camping, have been outside early in the morning, going to work or whatever, and there's that thick fog that's just over everything. And why fog is important, or the mist is so important? Vikings were scared of the fog and mist. Celts were scared of the fog / mist because you couldn't see what was in front of you. When you walked into it, you could disappear. So Ravenloft took this idea and ran with it, and that's how sometimes you end up in Ravenloft, which is a great way to do it. Honestly, great way to do it, in my opinion. But sometimes you can go I've played it where sometimes the characters don't actually leave the material plane. Sometimes it's just all up in here. There was a great novel that got turned into a cartoon I used to enjoy as a kid called Nemo in Dreamland. It's an Italian cartoon / book. And the concept is you go to sleep and you wake up, but you're not woke up. You are now part of your essence, your being, whatever you want to call it, your mojo is now in the Feywild. Add a little bit of the Freddy Krueger twist with whatever happens to you in dreams happens to your body in real life. So if you die in Never Neverland, you die in real life, where your character dies, and take it from there. Then have a session or two where they're exploring the Emerald Kingdom, or whatever. Probably sobers. And have a grand adventure. This works really well with kids, I find, because it's a lot easier for kids to take that bait than you have with older adults or teenagers, because whatever. So you make it as if they're walking through Willy Wonka's factory. Come with me. And there's just things out there that are just mind-blowing. And as DMs, we can put the word science, word magic is that probably a better term, into this, and describe great details on the Emerald Castle, the way mushrooms look, and how certain fae act. Yes, that fairy looks like an elf, but is it really an elf or is it something else? Something alien to them. Later on in the show, I'm more than positive a couple of us are going to bring up the courts. And, I'm going to briefly talk about that for a second. You got the winter court and you got the summer court. By those two courts, you can describe what the area around is going to be. Is it a luscious green meadow with, treants and all these beautiful pixies that are helpful? Or are you now in the winter court where it's barren and it's, everything is out there either wants to eat you, kill you, or turn you into its new sock puppet? And by doing that, and if you describe it in such the right way, you will have the players hooked. Then once the situation is over, having them wake up and realize the whole experience was bad 80s or good 80s soap opera when you shake it and it really in a snow globe. The hospital's in a snow globe, if anybody remembers that show from the 80s. And doing that way, I think, is a really interesting way to do, other than, well, you're now in the you're either got there by the miss, hook, or by crook, and doing it that way. I mean, there's multiple ways to do it, but that's some of mine. Or having the players unknowingly step into a ring full of mushrooms, a fairy circle, being really a teleport spell to boop them to the other plane of fairy existence. That's how I handle it.
That actually sounds a lot like what I've used before. I didn't realize that I was using Winter Court, but I was always using the Ravenloft style stuff to pull players into the Land of the Fae, and that's pretty interesting. I want to be like Guy. I want to be like what Kai does at a game table. He's a maestro. He's really good at it. I do Ravenloft. Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Jade.
Yes.
I hope I'm not beating up this topic here by having you answer the third time with this topic.
It's
If
fine.
not, if we're beating it up, if we're bludgeoning this, like I would just do what Kai did, or I just do what Colin did. If we're doing that, literally, we go to the next question. It's okay.
I've got a slightly different answer. So, for me, and you'll have to pardon me. I've had a little bit of drink tonight.
Drinky drink?
Yes,
You
some good old
bastard,
Irish
you
whiskey.
didn't invite me?
Drink.
I was out to dinner with my wife. All right, so I had a little bit of some good old Irish whiskey in me. So when it comes to the Phalanx that I particularly use, I go running and screaming back to my Irish mythology. It is part of my history, part of who I am. That's kind of where my family comes from, is Ireland. Years and years and decades ago. But so that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration from, is the Irish mythos and the Irish Phalanx. And I'm talking Tir na Nog and Magmel, and even what is it? The one I can never pronounce right. The Land of Apple Trees. Which is known as the Isle of Man in Scotland. All of these places and the lore therein, it's dependent upon which one of those lands I decide to take the party to. So if I'm going to Tir na Nog, it's the land of eternal youth. It's the land of the young. So you're going to find a lot of elven fae there, a lot of the Seelie court there. And they're eternally young and beautiful. As a matter of fact, there might be a chance that one of the party members could become the next king of the Fae there. But to participate in the climb on that hill means you can never leave Fairy ever again. Because every year that passes in Tir na Nog is 100 years in the prime material plane. So when adventurers go marching into the Fairylands, it's very, precarious if they'll ever come out or if they'll come out themselves afterward, because the Feylands have this habit of changing people to become more Fey-like. Mostly through action, through the players' characters' actions. They'll start to see or do things that a fairy might do instead of a mortal. And once they start accepting the gifts of the Fae and accepting the way the Fae do things, they're no longer mortal. They are one of the She. They are one of the Fae. And when that happens, it's kind of a heartbreaking moment for them, because they realize that they're going to not be around for all of their loved ones, passings. They will continue on, years into the future. It's almost the curse of immortality by going there. And if they ever do, as still a mortal, step foot back into the prime material plane upon land, age catches up to them in an instant. So if you've been gone in the Fey realm for, let's say, 10 years time, 1,000 years will have passed in the mortal realm. In that case, time catches up to you in an instant. The moment you touch foot and are still considered mortal upon mortal soil. So it's a death sentence. Now, there we go. Thank you, Six Nations. That's the one I can never say. Amen Ablak. Yeah,
I'm learning Gaelic and I can't pronounce half the shit.
It's a land of apple trees. And the other one that I was mentioning, Magmel, that's more of the land of the dead. That's where you're going to find, possibly find the Unseelie Court, the Fae that are a little more wicked, a little more trickster. Not to say that the Fae of Tir na Nog aren't tricksters. They're eternally young. They're going to pull the pranks of the young upon you, or upon your players, rather. They're going to stick people's boots together or stick them to the ground while they're walking. They're going to pull those pranks on them. But the Unseelie are going to have deadlier games, have deadlier consequences, or more dire consequences at the very least. And the Fae there, at least the way I run it, the Fae and Magmel, when you enter a game of chance with them, you do have a chance. It is a fair chance of winning, but you have to keep your wits about you. You can't ever let up. And the moment you give in to the Fae's desire in Magmel, you're done for. That's when they claim you. The moment you break the rules, because they will hold you to the letter of the agreement. And the moment you break your word, you're pretty much done for. They will call a hunt upon you, and you will be staring down a wild hunt pretty quickly. And then, of course, I don't really use Emin Ablak as much, mostly because it's the one that I don't know much about. But as far as there's a third, there is another realm I do use, and it is the realm of the Wild Fae, the realm between Tir na Nog and Magmel, and that is where the Wild Fae exist, and they aren't there to be tricksters. They're not there to cut you a deal. They are there to keep balance between the courts and keep the world turning, so to say, to keep the natural world in order. And if you travel there, expect goblins, expect hobs, expect all manner of creatures that are alien. The things there in the wilds, they are not your friends. And if you do meet a friend of, a thing pretending to be a friend or attempting to be a friend in the wild, keep your wits about you, because you don't know what they're leading you to. Not to say that you can't have great adventures in the wild. You can. As a matter of fact, that's where I place several extremely powerful artifacts is in the wilds. because it is such a danger to try to traverse, given the wild fae who are willing to butcher you to soak their hats in your blood. But, if I'm going to place an artifact out there, there's a reason for it. It's very likely that there was an adventuring party that went into the wilds to hunt something or to flee from something, and they got lost and never returned. So they, all of their artifacts and equipment are still out there somewhere to be claimed.
Can I jump on this really quick?
Sure.
The Land of the Youth. There is a great story during the time of St. Patrick where he comes across Finn's child from the Fianna.
Oisin.
And that goes
Yes.
along with the story, what you're talking about that area. For those who are watching this, if you can look into that story, St. Patrick and Oisin, great story. It's great story for mining ideas from.
So I'm actually going to pause you right there, because the story of Oisin and St. Patrick didn't come into the story till after the Christians got there. See, the original story of Oisin was that the king of Tir na Nog, he would always hold this race to the throne to see who the next king of Tir na Nog would be, and he was worried about losing his throne. So he went to his druids and he asked, "Do I have anything to fear about losing my throne?" And the druids had told him that so long as your son-in-law never sits upon the throne, you have nothing to worry about. So the king had used magic to turn one of his daughter's heads into the head of a pig. So his daughter went to the druids. The druids told her, "The reason why your father has done this is that you must marry a man of the mortal realm to retain your beauty, to regain your beauty." So she goes into the mortal realm and starts courting Oisin. She brings Oisin back to the land of Tir na Nog, and they marry. And he races for the throne and achieves the throne. He becomes king of Tir na Nog for a while, but he grows homesick after just 3 short years. And when he returns home, he is begging her that he wants to go home. He wants to see his Ireland once again. So she warns him, to take the horse and never set foot upon the land, for if you do, you can never return. And when he did step foot upon the land, because he had realized 300 years had passed, like everything he knew was gone, he fell off the horse. He didn't step off the horse. He fell off the horse in aghast and in astonishment. And he instantly aged 300 years as a mortal. And that is the actual story of Oisin.
Not a bad story there. And if you guys if you guys want to know more, highly recommend you just do it. You start your search. I would search on Google, because Bing has those chat bots, and I just don't like those myself. So just go there and start your search, and then start diving down the rabbit hole, and you'll be surprised about how entertaining it actually is.
I'm right there with you, Six Nations. I love Dario Gil and the Little People. Great.
Never sing.
It was a great St. Patty's Day film.
Great movie. Sean Connery should never sing. Sean Connery should never done an Irish accent either. But we'll let that be.
Don't disagree.
Baron G-Rock, got a question.
Okay.
Whenever you're running and Fae are involved with various locations, how do you get the players prepared for it, or what do you do differently to just accentuate the Fae nature of what's going on? Let's hear it.
Well, see, everyone's like, "Oh, I gently move them in. I do smoke and mirrors." See, I'm all about sorry, your thief. Well, for instance, your thief grabbed something in this temple you were in. All of a sudden, there was a bright, blinding light. You're not in the temple anymore. You're also not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Sorry. You know, and in the way that I tend to lay out with the Fae is I go more of the three kingdom approach, whereas a lot of people do just the Seelie and Unseelie. I like to break it into the unaffiliated also, which allows you to bring one of the greatest literary characters into the game, which is the Puck. The Puck is the go-between. He is the one that kind of shuffles messages back and forth because he's not aligned to either side. He also is the king of the unaffiliated. Those that don't fall under the summer or winter court fall under his preview. So it gives a lot more of the a little bit more gray area for you to play with in doing this, because the Fae, the winter and summer courts each have their own agenda. Well, the unaffiliated have their own agenda too. The issue is that they have a lot of their own agendas. So there's not just one thing you have to watch out for. There's 150 things, and then that guy behind you. It's literally one of the best ways, especially if you're wanting to enrapture with storytelling and things like that. Don't be afraid to bring in literature also. So, for instance, if you want to bring, if they go to the winter court, if you want to bring in Dresden, do it. As Connell sits there and goes, "No, you can't do that." Yes, you can. You can definitely do that. If also you want to, look at some of the other pieces that are out there, whether it's, the Junkyard Druid. If you want to place everything within Underhill, that is a whole great realm also to use for them. Is yes, they reside on the earthly plane, but they get all their power from Underhill through the portals that they have, and the portals are very well guarded. And the other thing is that when you're looking at especially things that you've read, you could even another one for me that was amazing, which gave me the idea of the unaffiliated more so of the Fae, because it was kind of back here, kind of like, well, what about the people that don't go for either side? There's a book, a group of short stories and books called Bubba the Monster Hunter. It is not affiliated in any way with Monster Hunter International. I thought it was. I thought it was. I was like, wow, somebody wrote some prequels. Okay, let's do this. And then come to find out, nope, this is just a big fat redneck that works for the Catholic Church and goes out and takes care of supernatural things. It works. And don't be afraid, if there's stuff and ideas that you have from just reading books. I've even pulled a few things that it's only been touched on just a little bit, but out of another series by Daniel Shinhofen called Apocalypse Gates, which is, it's almost like a lit RPG type deal, but it also has a lot of good ideas. The thing is the other thing I'd like to do is once they're in the Fae realm, they have to figure out how to get themselves out. Yes, they may have gotten the MacGuffin that got them there, but the MacGuffin ain't going to get them home. It could be, their lives could be quantum leap, where their next jump may take them home. It may be that their next jump takes them to another plane of existence. You just never know. But the thing is that you can also play off of these people within literature of the way the Fae realms are set up. They touch different realities. So it could not be unheard of that, all of a sudden, you have, Battleship Yamamoto appear in the skies because they tore through a rift. You can, and here's the beautiful thing: you can do whatever you want with the Fey Realms because the Fey Realms are open for anything that you want to do. That's the beauty of working with the Fae, especially in the realms. Yes, I also do have, tie them into the whole, Terra Nog and the Two of the Diamond. And, with, one of my favorites to throw in there is the Morgan. The Morgan is a great villain. Also but can also be a great person to back you. Talking about additional book series to look at, especially if you want to look at things with the Fae, the Iron Druid. That was an exceptionally good book series about the last druid alive, and how he, was being hunted by Fae and things along those lines. So you can bring all these different ideas, even if you want to make all the supernatural things, the werewolves, the vampires, the, whatever supernatural, they can be Fae. There's nothing that says that they cannot be tied into the whole Fae. So you can run the gambit if you want to run that, Ravenloft or Curse of Strahd type thing. If you want to, pull in certain things, there's the only thing that's going to limit you is your imagination and putting the story together. And that's the big thing. You're telling a story. You don't have to make your story the cookie cutter of someone else's. You can take bits and pieces from any story you want. And that's pretty much how I approach the with the Fey Realms and getting the players there and what they experience.
Well, that actually takes things into a different direction than what I have planned, but I think that is important to notate because the literature about the Fey realm, about the Fey and their machinations, I think that's just something that we need to study up, and I think we need to, as GMs, just be aware of that. At the very least, read a little bit of the Great Bard's works, because he mentions it a little bit in Midsummer's Night's Dream, if I remember right.
Mhm.
And there's a Butcher, you recommend him as well because he's good contemporary fiction and good contemporary urban fiction at that. It's not super urbane or egalitarian to read Butcher. Anyone could enjoy it. Anybody from the highest wage earner to the lowest pauper could open up a Jim Butcher novel and just enjoying it. And they could have a rudimentary sense of the idea of what magic is, or they could be somebody who practices the pagan rituals and such, and they would still find enjoyment by reading it, because he does do some research, I have noticed. Usually whenever I hand a book of his to a couple of friends of mine, they let me know where he messed up. Anyway, so before I answer the Crafting Gamer, I must ask you, have you ran with Fae before? Because I know that you do a lot of Palladium and you do a lot of Robotech, but you delve into the fantastic.
Yeah, well, a little story I actually forgot about last week, / it kind of worked out because it kind of worked better for this week, is I did do one of those many, lack of a better term, showing people Palladium campaigns, where it did actually involve the Fae. And this was before Pirates of the Caribbean. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's still the idea for me. The last thing you want to, because it's something I implement now, last thing you want to do in my games is get lost. And I'm not talking about, I can't find the city. No, I mean good and lost. That's a good way to find the Fey realms in my games. You go to a forest. Well, I can survive here, but I don't know where I've been going for 3 months. Well, chances are you aren't in the forest. No, you aren't in the mortal realm anymore if you've been lost for 3 months. You're good and lost. You're finding things that no one should find because you are beyond lost.
Goddamn, Lieutenant.
Yeah, nothing's worse than a second lieutenant in a compass.
We're lost. We're the Fey realm.
Hey.
Yes.
And an upside down map.
That's a good recipe for disaster. We had a guy in our reserve unit when I was practicing over in Shelbyville, and he was transferred out of the Army, and he renegaded into officerdom. And he wasn't really too up with things. He was not a very well liked individual, but we had some very skilled people that were there with us. And mind you, we're doing drill at a state park. Okay, so like wilderness shit is really cool. Had a lot of fun there. Didn't ever see anything paranormal, which was nice because, no offense, I don't want to see fairies. I'd rather see Bigfoot than see fairies. If I see fairies, I know I'm fucked. But we had a guy that was about 30 years in active duty. He retired as an E9, stayed in the reserves because he just couldn't take the camouflage off. So whenever this guy came in, it was like my 6th month doing this, he took the maps and he asked the officer, "What handedness are you?" And he's like, "What? Okay, when you're holding the compass, what hand is that in?" He's like, "Well, I hold that in my right." Okay, so then he would stencil on the left side of every map exactly where he needs to put his left hand to hold the map, like such. He's like, "Hold the map like this. Don't get us lost, okay? We have to go out and do some stupid location drills. I don't want to hear I'm lost." And that never got old. Ever. Because it was too true. But I do have to ask, before I answer this question, what do you guys think about taking natural areas and twisting them a little bit? Anybody here? Because in my formerly, let me do this right. In my formerly nicotine-stained hands, I have a book called The Sword of Air. It's by Bill Webb, by the Wizards at Frog God Games. And inside this book, there is a city called Zen. Zen is a city of victimhood. It's a victim of a magical war. And I must present to you something that may scare you. And I'm going to get a glare. But this is Attack of Squirrel. I really like that. Because they had a magical war in the city, and it changed everything around the city, turned a lot of it to desert, blasted a lot of it away. I think they wrote that part during 1991, 92. Dark Sun looks cool. Let's do that. But you'll see here that they have made Squirrel Thulu. Squirrel Thulu, the most deadly creature up to this point in this wonderful tome. For those of you looking for an adventure module that has 100 adventure locations and events, and takes characters all the way as far as you're willing to let them explore, I do recommend The Sword of Air. All right. I like that idea that they had for Zen. I like the idea of taking a natural area that was once a city of beauty, which had a lot of natural landmarks, and giving it such a hell of a magical obliteration that now even the simple wildlife has been twisted and destroyed, and things have ferried up from the depths to pervert the surface animals. Illithids spawning little Squirrel Thulus. Kind of a cruel way to do things, but I do love that. It's probably not something you would want to adventure with in terms of like, we're going to do a Fey adventure and then pop your players into an irradiated city and where nature has taken over, but it's not really the nature you know, it's the nature you don't know, the nature that's been twisted by magic and the machinations of greed. But I think that would be just a fun thing, just to kind of lob that at you guys and see what you want to do with it, because I think that could really turn into a fun set of ideas that you could let postulate and fester and turn into something. It would be impressive. Carlo Albanese, how you doing, sir? Hello, GM Cody. Good to see you.
It's funny you bring up the Squirrel Cthulhu. I took my daughter to a recent movie that just came out that has space kittens in it. And she's like, "Ooh, space kittens!" But she forgot about the tentacles that comes out of the cat's mouth. And her next reaction was, when something happens, like, "What the fuck was that?"
She obviously forgot that that's the same cat that destroyed Nick Fury's eye.
Yes.
And I'm having a hard time remembering his character name because I haven't seen a movie with him in it
Goose.
for like 4 years. I feel sorry
Yeah,
for them.
I mean, not getting into the movie, but just the mixture of animals with Cthulhu. I was thinking of the cat, and I'm like, oh god.
When it comes to Fey realms, you kind of have to ask yourself as a game master, how alien is too alien for my Fey realm? Is everything perceived upside down? Is the sky purple, not blue? How alien do you want your realm to be, and that your players are going to experience?
Well, personally, I
Go
make
ahead,
that based off the Fey in the area.
Go ahead, Kai.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was a question.
Honestly, if you're going off into the deep wilds, it should be a swirling mix of chaos and shapes and weirdness. It really should be undefined, hard to define, maddening. If you have sanity points in your game, you should be inflicting it, because things don't line up right. Things don't make sense. It's at this point you're trying to impart what little bit of your will and your idea of what reality is against the countless creatures of creatures that exist out there. It should be bizarre. It should be you're floating in a sea of chaos, and then you're like, wait, what's over there? And then you realize that it's a bunch of fae telling their own version of an opera or a play, but it's way overblown, way over the top. Because you're in the deep Fey wilds. They don't care if the body that they're in right now gets destroyed. Who cares? They go back to being primordial chaos, and they look at you kind of like, what are you doing? But that play may end, and you may be back out. Like, I like my Fey wilds to be bizarre as shit. I want it to be deadly and dangerous just by existing. I want people to find trods between sanctuaries and bastions in the sea of chaos that you can easily get lost in. I want people to realize that they're about to transition from the middle march, from the middle marches to the into the far wilds, that they should have that point of going, I don't want to go any further. I want them to realize that they are out of their depth. I want them, if they're in somewhere normal and they step through the veil, they take a shadowy alleyway that they didn't realize was there before, and then they end up in some weird Fey holdfast. That's the gateway to the deeper into the wilds, and go, oh, this doesn't sound so bad, and they end up looking that, don't fall off the path, don't fall off Snake Way, goddammit.
But there's food down there, Chi-Chi.
That's right. But it's a similar concept. where you might discover that there is a whole network of, places like this that, since you're going into the deep wilds, time and space and distance don't seem to match up anymore. So you might discover, that this little pocket is where a lot of weird shit lives and escapes. And do you let this continue to happen? Do you let, weird stuff just manifest itself? It's just this, but meanwhile, you might encounter Fae who's like, yeah, I want it to be alien. I want it to be different. I want it to be, I want it to look like, to be the dreams you never had and the nightmares you haven't experienced yet. And they're waiting for you. Like, they're just waiting for you to bring your creativity and imagination, because they feed off of you. Because, they're not creatures of creativity. They're creatures of your imagination and your creation. So the plays they're telling, they're not their original ones. They're just mocking you. Everything's a mockery of you. They're a mockery of civilization. They're a mockery of creation. And they know it. They hate you, but they need you. Like, without you in reality, they would just be okay. They would be formless creatures of infinite shape and possibility, but no idea what to be. So they dance and dally around in your realm. So if you go to theirs, they're okay. They're happy to play with you, but it's not the world you know. The middle marches might be where you see the castles with towers that extend impossibly high into the clouds, where you might see weird warping spirals in trees. That's the middle marches. Like, I want it to look more and more crazy, and they want to lure you because they're going to feed on you. They're going to unmake you and harvest everything that makes you you, so that way they got something new to play with.
And you kind of touched on something I was going to bring up, and that's the fact that some parts of the Fey realms are malleable enough to someone who is exceptionally strong of will. Yes. They can shape the very Fey realms around them if their will is strong enough, until they meet a stronger force of will. So if you're traveling through, if your players are traveling through the Fey realms because the wizard knows the ways, and the ways are not just the way to get someplace. The ways are kind of like a place that interconnect multiple different places. And so if your wizard knows of the ways and is able to form and shape the ways through force of will, it's a high likelihood that, a lot of the things you'll run into are going to want to taste your wizard's willpower and their mind. It's very Cthulhu-esque in that aspect. However, if you run up against something that can straight up contest or break someone's willpower within the Fey realm, they now take control, and the Fey realms warp and shape and bend to their will. And you now play by their rules, because the rules of the Fae, Fae do have rules that they follow, but the rules of the world might change, and now your players have to keep up with the change in reality.
Oh yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
As a matter of fact, actually, a lot of the planar travels from like the Manual of the Planes in D&D, I view a lot of those places as Fey-like realms, just with extremes and pole stones that flavor that particular part of the Fey wild. So, like, the Plane of Fire to me is a realm where summer has taken full hold, and it is unbearable heat, whereas the Plane of Water might be beholden to the winter court, as is the Plane of Air.
I don't really play much with the elemental realms myself. I messed up as a young kid, and I played the Temple of Elemental Evil the module that I'm sure many of us are familiar with. And I don't know what Gary was thinking when he wrote that, but the more I thought about it, I didn't like the way the elemental areas were designed.
Mhm.
And I felt like they were, for them being elemental planes where like things are vastly expansive and limitless, the areas where you touch base at on the various elemental planes felt very limiting. It felt super small and congested.
Real quick, Flady, or not Flady, Six Nations, what you're describing sound like hobs to me. Those sound like hobs. And those are wicked creatures.
Agreed.
They don't just kidnap people. They typically kidnap children to turn them into more hobs.
What was that? I know we're talking about RPG games, RPG, and but there was a video game. I think it was one of the Fables that went hob crazy. And
Oh
they
god,
stuck
yeah,
to-
Fable 2.
They stuck to the lore fairly consistently.
Yeah, Fable. The Fable series did a good job on their take on hobs, and what you're thinking is actually Fable 2.
All right, I don't remember which one. It's been almost a decade since I played
Mhm.
that one.
I for question 2, actually, there's a question here. Anybody here remember this movie called The Darkness? I don't know if that's what he's describing here.
There was a Tooth Fairy one that came out in the early 2000s, where the only way to, if the Tooth Fairy came to take your tooth and you saw it or her, as the case may be, she would kill you outright. But she had a bad allergic reaction to sunlight or any lights, period. That could be the one. Yeah, it is.
Wait, are we talking about the one with The Rock or with Larry the Cable Guy?
Neither one. This was I get what you're going there, but no, this
That's terrible. That's terrible.
you know what? He does it to me all the time. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, for
Oh, you
question
mean
2,
this?
and that was a good round of Q&A there, because I got everybody to input something a little bit different. I was not getting the same answer, which I'm always fearful of that. We have 6 people here. A lot of us, we get along great with each other. We're kind of from the same background and such. But no, that was great. I got to ask for question 2. Your campaign time in the Fey Realms. I'll go with Kai. Do your players seek to try and escape, or do they try to manipulate? How do your players react once they're there? What do you do? I know you have your challenges and your contests that you have for them to surmount, but for your players' experiences, what do you see them trying to do? Do they try to murder hobo everything they can and get out of there? Do they try to be fleet of foot? What direction do your players take once they realize where exactly they are?
The first job is to escape. That is, they almost always it's escape and to find their way back. They will do anything to find their way back because they realize there's always that one player who goes, "But I want crazy," and then they get left behind. And then the rest of them beat feet as fast as humanly possible back to reality. It's hard. I don't make it easy on them. And their entire goal is to escape and then to contain. Because they realize that if left unmolested, they will unmake creation. They will unmake reality. It's best to stop them. It's best to find if they paid attention going in, they'll remember the islands, the barrier points, and then they'll make their way towards those, and then they'll find their way back. And then their only thought then is let's prevent this from becoming more common. They don't mind the idea that the Fey realms exist, but they don't want the fair folk running around. They don't want Iron Rakshasas running around. They just want to. They want a clear barrier between the land where nothing makes sense and the land where they can actually plan. But they always try to escape some way or another without starting a war. That's the one thing they always try to do, is not start a war, because nobody wants to be the start of the Malorian Crusade. They don't want that. They don't want to be the provokers of the Wild Hunt. And I have used the Wild Hunt to chase the players. Because once you're in their realm and once you're escaping, you're a you're a target. You're prey. Your animals fit for them to hunt because you're fast, you're strong, you're agile, and they escape. And like, it's fun because you present them a threat that they can't beat. They have to outsmart, and I enjoy doing that. It gives them a challenge that can't be beaten with an initiative roll. They have to think. They have to use other skills, perception, survival, stealth. And I have no problem picking people off and going, I'm sorry, player who is loud, clanky, noisy, and useless. You better think of a way to not die. While players are trying to think of smart tactics. They're shedding gear. They're trying to cover for each other's tracks. They know they're being hunted. And because of the fact that I do have the you're never more than a day from the edge of reality. So you can travel for 3 weeks and you're a day from the edge. So they only got to survive a day and they're back to reality. I have fun with that, especially when they all have the same thought of, we want to find the way home. Well, guess what? 4 or 5 people thinking the exact same wish makes the path home easier to find. They don't know what's going on, but I do. Because the Fey realm is malleable, it is changing and warpable, so therefore they can will. But the thing is that the hunt, the horde, the Fey that are chasing them get to follow that path back. And guess what? You've opened a door for them to follow you. And that might be what they're wanting. That might be what they're desiring, is for you to make a path, but a path through the barrier. Path into creation, so they can unmake more of it. Because the less people that are around, they get to the more power they get to have, and it's fun, and I love to do that to them. But they always when they realize they've gone too far, try to run. They don't stay around because, they realize murder hoboing doesn't do anything when the creature you killed reforms itself shortly thereafter, so you don't buy much time, and it allows me to have fun with the encounter. And I've only got a chance to do this like 3 times. That's 3 times that were each of them were different. Each of them were more interesting and fun. I loved it. Yeah, one of them was pretty much a magical version of an airboat ride. That was the opening to Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, involving fairies, but it was a great little scenario, and I loved it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, you know that part where they're running there, and all of a sudden you see, and one of the players is screaming, "Start the boat! Start the fucking boat!" And because that's how they're planning on escaping, and I loved it. It was a beautiful moment.
Still one of my favorite openings to any movie.
Oh God, yes.
That just evoked an entire mini campaign in my head. So, excuse me while I sort that out. Connell.
Yeah.
Say you're playing a game with your buds, with your store people.
Okay.
And this is going to be a 2-part question, so I'm going to ask you the same question with just 2 different audiences. With your store individuals, how would you run a game that encounters the Fae? How would you How would you make that to where it's PG-13?
I like using festivals. Halloween was just this past week, and I will say that on certain times in the calendar year, that the saran wrap between our world and Never Never, it gets a little thinner. Things are able to come through a little bit easier, especially on Halloween. And I will have evil jack-o'-lanterns or scarecrows kind of go after them, because the scarecrow is really something else. It is, a spirit of fear, and go that route. And sometimes I'll use, I know werewolves are not technically fae. Well, it depends on what part of the world you come from, what they consider. Or I will use Eastern fairy tales. Eastern European, I can't talk. But yeah, Baba Yaga. Using, you come across a old woman in the woods picking roots. What do you do? Do you offer a hand? Or do you just blow past her like she's just some body in your way? And depending on how they deal with this is what comes next.
Okay. Whenever you have that happen with the store crowd, what do you find yourself emphasizing the most?
Patience. No. Actually, I know that's a cheeky answer, but that's really the truth of it. Patience. I'm trying to teach the kids that murdering hobo is not always the answer. Sometimes stopping and offering Granny a hand, is a good thing. A good thing. Or just because it is scary doesn't mean it wants to eat you. There's a creature out of 3.5 Pathfinder called Grey Render, which is basically harmless unless you go and mess with it. So I will determine what kind of party I have by if I throw one of them in the path. If I got a group, and I've said this before, if I got a group that basically ignores it, moves on with their life, I'll kind of have it follow them for a little bit, just to see what they have. But if they attack it, it normally kills the party at lower levels. And going back to Fae, maybe I want to do a leprechaun or some kind of pixie or pixie or whatever, and determines how they treat it. It will basically determine how the rest of that night goes for encounters or rewards.
Okay. After you have a group at your private location, how do you run the Fae realms or the Fae encounters for them? Is there a big difference, or is there anything that you would do differently? And the reason why I'm asking this is because there are some of our viewers are store GMs or store players, but some of them also will have the ability shortly, if they don't already have the ability, to run in a private location to where, if you are going to run NC-17 and everybody at the table is part of it, they're on board for it. Go for it. How would
if I'm running at somebody's house, hypothetically, let's say I'm over at Jade's house and I'm running a game for him and his wife and Baron and Kai and whoever else can show up that on a Tuesday evening like we used to. Well, for some of us used to, which I miss. Anyways, back to the topic at hand.
Slight way of saying that, huh?
Okay, he's been hanging out with Bear and Mr. Bavon and everything else with the light of poking of maybe
I am not a passive aggressive person, but I'm becoming one of my as the years come by. No, at one point I was just pure aggression. But no, if I'm running for them, it just depends. The term read the room has to come to play. It really does. If I know that I can ratchet things up, not in a adult, we're a bunch of corn stars, but actually ratchet up where I can have my phase be as bloodthirsty as I want to. I can send the wild hunt after them. I'll go balls to the wall. Where if I'm at a game shop with kids or other adults, I have to kind of draw it back because I want them to come back. I want them to have a good time, and I don't want them to think that the DM is just outrightly trying to screw them. So I have to kind of run things differently. If I'm at a private house, I'm kind of a little bit off the leash. I get to run it a little bit more the way I want to.
Okay.
Does that come close to your what you wanted to know? Yes.
Yeah,
No?
that's mostly what I wanted to hear because I'm curious. You're the only one of us that is a paid GM. You're the only one of us that is a individual that runs primarily at stores, at public locales. So whenever you're running the creepy and the unsettling, you kind of have to tone your game to that audience, to that venue. And
Right.
not everybody's going to have that experience. I mean, all of us have ran in a store before. You're the only one that I know right now that gets paid for it, like paid.
It's as much as I disagree with somebody by calling it Mother May I type gaming, or I run play parties for kids. It's not. It's just teaching. It is help teaching a younger generation on what is not acceptable, but how to have more of a healthier campaign going on than the ones we started off. I mean, 3.5 Pathfinder are RPG games, but they install hey, I'm gonna go kill that. Why that? Why not?
If it's on the board, it's meant to be murdered.
Right, where whatever edition you are running, I'm running 5th edition half the time. I ask them, "Are you? I will say, "Are you sure?" Which is a fun line to do with kids. Hey, are you sure you want to do that? But I wanted to show them that there is not a better way to play, but there is a different way to play.
Connell, that's our sort of discussion there. We're going to eventually get on to old school gaming or gaming with rules light systems. So keep that conversation there on deck during that. And there's nothing wrong with running a store location fey. There really isn't, because you can still make people unsettled. You can, if your thesaurus that is by your side is good enough for you to get away with literary murder in a nice way. Then
it also helps. I should have thought about this. Also kind of helps when their voices. Because they have voices. And if you can drop your whatever, do those particular voices, the kids love it.
Don't ever do that again.
Understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is this. I want pizza.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh, my God.
Had to happen eventually.
Twice in the stream, I had to do it.
We need
I
to
didn't want to
actually have
do
a
it.
timer. It's been this many minutes since we kicked Connell out.
I know you guys want to give me shit, but it's true. I mean, the more active you can be, especially when gaming with kids, and it doesn't matter if it's new or old systems, the more the kids will get into it.
No, yeah, that's anybody actually. And no offense, but there are days where I used to run Pathfinder at Corpus Christi, and my group eventually disintegrated because my schedule got kind of out of hand. And so I would run like 3 nights in a row for 2 weeks. I'd be gone. I'd come back and I'd run 3 more nights for a row. And they didn't like that. So my group of players that were there for like a year and a half just deserted. Like, this is not a weekend. I can't do this. So anyway, I got the store regulars that were people that were there every day, day in, day out. And that's typically high school age kids. And so when I had to transition as a GM from running adults on weekends that were there for 8 hours. Now I'm running a 4-hour or 5-hour game for kids that are barely able to keep their phone out of their hands. And therefore I had to run a puppet show, basically. Oh, wait, let me draw this map out so I can put the next bad guy up so you guys can try to knock that down too. And then whenever I had them encounter the Fae, because there's a really neat encounter at Rapanathuk where there's a Fae there's a Fae procession, and you have to meet Fae royalty. And when you're there, some of you guys may want to take notes because this may appear in a campaign later. When you're there, they drag you out in front of the king of the fairies, and he says, I have a problem. I want my life to continue as it is. We are being killed. There's a monster that's here that's killing us. We don't have the means to get rid of it. You're part of the bigger folk. We can actually be of mutual assistance. Help us, and we will be a boon to you. And so the players, oh, sure, yeah, no problem. And I put this big monster on the table, and first couple rounds of combat, it massacres players. It just one-shots one of the bards. It completely batters one of the clerics into oblivion. And the third round of combat, the Fae start playing a song, and he fails his save because the Fae bard is pretty good, and they've got a chorus behind them augmenting the saving throw. So what happens is the big monster now is staggered. For 3.5 and Pathfinder people, staggered is the ideal condition for your enemy to be in when you're getting ready to do a coup d'etat or something, or a coup de grace. My bad. Tell where my mind's been lately. The coup de grace, you do that, and on a staggered foe, you typically have no resistance to them, from them, and you can just cut their head right off. So the players are there for a few rounds trying to attack the staggered thing. It keeps moving around a little bit here and there, but it takes huge damage. And then finally they kill it. And the fairies show you the 75 dead burial sites of their fairy friends, and they give you the award and such. But the fairies are really not that great because their reward, they give you something that fairies like, not what you want. They don't give you magic items. They don't give you reagents for your spells. They give you a gallon of the most potent wine they've ever had, and that gallon would last that fairy colony like 3 years.
I wouldn't bitch,
but it's a good wine. It gets you sloshed the first drink you take of it because you're not used to it. It takes some tolerance building, but you only have 1 gallon of it, and the party felt really upset after that. And then the fairies sent them off to the realm of the dark fae after that, and the party died because they were young high school kids not thinking right. They were thinking, I want to kill everything I see. One of my many failures in gaming. Anyway, they enjoyed the puppet show. They hated the actual RP. The RP is what killed them.
If only there was like somebody else I recently gamed with that feels the same way.
Yeah. But I have to ask Connell, is there anything else we need to add to that for your answer as far as like running Fae at like a store?
Have fun with it. Have fun. Fae are some of the few creatures that you can be slightly silly with and serious at the same time. And we run into so many different creatures are thrown at the parties, from hobgoblins to goblins themselves to vampires and everything else. When it comes to Fae, you can somewhat dial back the silliness a little bit and be a little bit more goofy. A leprechaun that's hell bent to kill you is making jokes the entire time.
I've come to the hood to do no good. I've come from the hood.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't exactly use that particular one as a reference point, but you like the leprechaun movies, go for it.
Oh.
It's like,
what the zombie fly jig about maybe a half hour before we started this because I needed to decompress after work. I don't recommend you guys do that. I wasn't ready either.
Apparently, when I get drunk and I laugh, I sound like an angry leprechaun. I don't know. But no, I'll joking.
No, That's when you get drunk and start giggling like Bruce. and that kills Bear.
No. Bear's never heard me laugh. What we need to do, we need to go to Ohio and grab Zach and have Zach do something funny or stupid. And that's what's going to kill me. And Bear will not be able to hold it in. He will listen to that laugh and he will collapse into his component parts.
He will record it and it will wind up in a movie somewhere.
It will. Okay. Jake.
He's Bear's the reason why I'm going to be watching Punisher Warzone again, because supposedly he's in it.
Sounds like we need a meet up.
What was that, Kai?
Sounds like we need a meet up.
Yeah. We're all going over to Jade's house.
How about
Want to pay my airfare?
Fluffy white dogs. Jade, got a question for you on Fae.
Okay.
When you're running your Fae, as your games have a decidedly different feel than mine or Jade or Kai's or Baron's. When your players encounter Fae, do your players have like the overwhelming desire to leave this place and never speak of it again, or do they explore because they're knowledgeable on the subject and they think they can traffic with Fae? How does that work? Because you're experienced, you are very well read on the Irish folklore.
So mostly it depends on how damaged the player is before they come to my table. And I say that because many a game master have used the Fae as a means to trick players, not characters, but players. Many a game master have used the Fae to just outright destroy parties, and make them fear the Fae and not want to even have to deal with them, either because it is too chaotic or too unpredictable, or the players just don't have a good time with it. So if the player is already pre-damaged or predisposed to not wanting to bother with the Fae, and I find out ahead of time, I won't bother with them. I won't use them at the table. If my players have not experienced the Fae, that's where I get to have fun with my Irish mythos, my Irish mythology. That's where I get to have them actually run into Fae who have a desire for things of man, and have a desire to see things put right. Again, I run Fae where they have certain rules, and humans have a lot of the same rules that the Fae have, whether they realize it or not, especially when it comes to like hospitality, gift giving, being in one's debt or gratitude. A lot of those things are things Fae have, especially in my games. So if if the players are willing to actually treat with the Fae and be on their best behavior, not become murder hobos, they'll come through it mostly unscathed. As a matter of fact, they might actually come through it with benefits or gifts of the Fae, because the Fae don't want to be in debt to the party for whatever they've done. Some gifts might be everlasting. Some gifts might be temporary or fleeting in a moment. The next time you roll a 20, roll a D10 along with it, and if you may add or subtract to that D20 roll the D10 roll, something of that nature. So if the party is willing to follow the rules of the Fae, very likely they're going to come out ahead at the end of it. And if they, as I said, if they're already predisposed to hating Fae and hating randomness and hating the chaos that are Fae, then if I am going to use Fae in my world for those kind of players, it's going to be a teaching moment. It's going to be a teaching moment to say, hey, not all Fae are what you've run into before. They're not just bags of hit points there to torment you. in a lot of cases, I kind of run it like an Alice in Wonderland story, where the characters have to learn about the rules of the Fae and have to not just gain the understanding of why the Fae are the way they are, but to also gain the respect of the Fae. And once they've done so, once they've been reformed into players or even characters that are capable of treating with the Fae on equal playing field or equal levels, then sometimes those players will seek the Fae out, especially when they're going through some incredible hardship that they have no idea how to tackle. I've had players go, "Hey, we have that contact in Fairy. Do you think we should contact them and see what's going on?" And I let them do it. If they want to contact the Faelands and they want to treat with a Fae, and they're willing to offer something in exchange, that Fae may come to them and be like, "Yeah, I have the information you're looking for, but your payment's not enough. Here's what you're gonna have to do for me if you want this information." And it's a role play moment. It's not just a roll the dice play moment. No, it's a role play your character and trade with me what the characters have and what the Fae want in return for what the characters want. A lot of really great conversations and trade negotiations happen when I involve my Fae.
Unless it's a satyr, then he'll steal your shit.
No, my satyrs don't steal shit.
Oh yeah, he did outside the freaking forest labyrinth he had us go through.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, there was reasons for it.
That doesn't mean he didn't steal our shit.
But there were reasons.
Yeah, sure. I believe that there's reasons.
Yeah, actually, yes. Six Nations has got it right there. Once you're able to treat with the Fae as equals and actually able to understand what they want in return for services or gifts that they give to the player characters, they're not just great contacts. You get some really nifty stuff from the Fae, especially things that the Fae are like, yeah, some human brought this into our land. It's an anathema. We don't want it in our land because it's poisoning our trees. Please take this home with you and do whatever you want with it. Just don't bring it back.
You know what the Fae want?
It just happens to be the sword of Arthur. It happens to be Excalibur, and they're like, yeah, this thing's been rotting our trees, turning the Faelands black. Can you please take this and never return it to us?
Two things. A, that was misstorage because it's supposed to go back in a rock or a stone, depends on who you talk to. And B, you know what Fae
that depends on the sword.
You really want to know what the Fae want in every negotiation that they ever have with humans? The upper hand. Oh, I think I'm getting a good deal. No, you're not.
No, the Fae. I mean, and that right there is an example of a game master, in my opinion, using Fae incorrectly. They aren't wanting an upper hand. They are interested in balance. So for them to gain the upper hand means they have done a disservice. Now, granted, they will benefit from their trades. They will seek a benefit or goal from the trade or from the negotiation. Will they benefit more than the person? Possibly. It's very possible that that'll happen. But to the Fae, it's by accident. The Fae don't feel like they have gained more than what they gave. They gave what they thought was a fair trade in value.
All right. Just don't eat their food or drink their water, or you're screwed.
It's usually the players.
Yeah, well, you're in their debt. Go ahead, Kai.
It's usually the players who push things a little bit too far, trying to get to push it from a fair bargain into something that's in their favor. That usually causes the fun tricks and traps that it's like that end up biting the players in the ass because when they ask a little bit too much, they don't realize that now we're negotiating, and now what was fair turns into fun.
Yep.
Most of the campaigns outside of yours, if I have to say which court I run into most likely as a player, is probably Winter.
The Unseelie.
Yeah, and Mab has a hell of a left hook and a right hook.
I mean,
Nice.
if I'm going to throw Unseelie at the party and there's a role play opportunity there, yeah, that Unseelie is going to go for some kind of benefit to them that's going to give them a large upper hand, but not necessarily against the party. And if the party doesn't want to treat with that Fae doesn't have any qualms about destroying a mortal. They don't care. It's like, oh, okay, well, what use are you to me if you're not going to treat with me and deal with me? You have no use to me, so therefore, why should I let you leave this place alive? I have no reason to.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Kind of a scary thought going inside Kai's head there for a second. Sorry. Baron G-Rock.
Yeah.
You're running your table. Your players realize where they're at. The way you typically run a very improv base game. How do your players at the table usually take into their adventures into the Fae realms? Do they recognize the danger they're in? Do they just kind of ride along, be like, buckle up, he's running us into Fae now? What's going on?
The funny thing is the last time I ran, I had a person who had never encountered the Fae in a game before, and she introduced herself to the Puck and ended it with her name and at your service.
Oh.
Whoops.
Hey, this character come with her own barrel?
Well, the thing is that I kind of GM fiated it a little bit and go, you're new here, aren't you? Speaking as the Puck, and she was like, yeah. Never say that to one of our kind because they will take full advantage of that. That's your one and only learning lesson here in the Phalanx. So I mean, I could have ran with it like crazy, but sometimes when a player is as the player is making kind of what would be a faux pas of saying that to the Fae, you as a GM have to look at it as, okay, this player has not encountered it. Also, the character has never encountered the Fae. So, it goes back to the Family Guy Spider-Man thing of everybody gets one. And that's the rule that I've always played by. Everybody gets one. Do it again, then you've had your one warning about it. I'm going to run with it. But and sometimes them making the faux pas like that actually help the party out as a whole, because then not only will the characters not fall into that same trap, but that does open up a whole new amount of other traps in order for them to fall into. And it's not as a GM trying to, as Jade put it, using the Fae against them or whatever, or putting a bad taste in their mouth with it. I try not to do that. For the simple fact of I like players who come to my table and I don't want to torque off players who come to my table. Therefore, I try not to scare them away. So I'll give them that one courtesy. Okay, don't do this type thing. But yeah, it was there were some other things that happened in that game. Yeah, exactly. That where another player was bitten by a wolf, and then that player killed the wolf, and then all of a sudden the player's character started to change a little bit, because it happened to be one of the wolves that were they were in the Winterlands, and it was one of the scouts for Queen Maeve. Well, there always has to be a scout, so therefore, got bit. You were stronger than me. You must take my place. And if you think about it, that is a very Fae thing to do, because typically, especially in the winter, they look at strength above all else. So if the whole thing of I was not strong enough to defeat this enemy now has to take my place, for the simple fact of they are stronger than me, they are better for the realm. And that's the thing, is that it's kind of getting into those mindsets when you're GMing for the Fae themselves. Is you kind of have to put yourself into, okay, how would they react? How would they keep up defenses? How would they keep up, everything? How is the kingdom survived this long? And that's what it boils down to, is that especially with the the Unseelie or the winter Fae, is the strength. But there's also kindness there, because technically Santa is considered to be part of the winter court.
Only half the time.
So I want you to think about that. Santa is part of the winter court.
Half the time.
No, all the time.
The other half he's Odin.
New record 3 times this time, guys. 3 times.
The Crafting Gamer, got to ask you real quick. When you've got your table with you, and you're running somewhere fantastic, just have you ran the Fae before or no?
I have ran the Fae. You see, I'll admit my primary group, and I didn't think about much more of my groups that I showed the Palladium for, but I did run the Fae a few times with my main group, and they just didn't know it. Like, I'm actually going to touch on I'm going to touch on 2 halves here because of my experiences. One, which is the elephant in the room that Baron. Sorry, I kept wanting to call you Bruce. That Baron just kind of.
Why am I an elephant?
I'm talking about the fact you talked about Santa. Santa in his realm in itself is its own elephant in the room, because Santa has his own Fae realm all to himself.
True.
And that's where I shoved my main players without them really realizing that they were in a Fae realm. But because they're in Santa's Fae realm, things were different. Like, if you wanted to, you could walk on the ceiling to go get something. So the elves had desks and other things up on the ceiling to save room. Because Santa, the Fae, it feels infinite to mortals, but even to the Fae, there is only so much space. That's why it's constantly changing, at least in my games. So Santa, to a human, his shop was infinite. to the Fae, it's like, yeah, I don't have enough space here. Okay, let's put something on the ceiling real quick. But they accepted it because it wasn't world breaking compared to what they wanted. But with the other guys that got with the temporary group, the guys who got lost in the forest, their entire campaign was them trying to get out of the forest, and they never did. Because I didn't think about it, but Jade does have a really good idea. You're never more than a day from the exit if you really want to be. That's or not Jade. Oh, who was that? Kai. Oh, right. Sorry, I'm getting all this confused. People go on such long, good rants, and I try to listen, but I forget what I'm hearing it from.
If you're listening in and you're interacting, but you're not watching who's talking, I could see where you could have that mistake. That's understandable.
Yeah. But I didn't consider the whole day away from the edge, and that is a really good idea. So they the campaigns ended with them going, okay, we have to go talk to one of the kings of the not Sealy Court, of the Fae. I'm listening to you guys, and see about getting out of here. And I warned you guys, and I did warn them that if we ever got back to it, we never got a chance to, that was going to be expensive with a Fae. You might not like the price. They're like, well, we'll have to pay it. And I was already thinking of, they would have to take on, because the closest king, they would have more than one to choose from in my realm. The closest king they could find would be a Fae that enjoyed curses. So for him to help them, they would all have to accept a curse. That was the idea I had.
Odd question.
Yeah.
What if one of the players' characters already had a curse on them, and the Fae being interested in curses? What if the character said, "Hey, I'm willing to offer up my curse for you to entertain yourself with, for you to take and toy with and discover what it is and how it works"? Would that have been an acceptable payment?
Oh yes, definitely. Because the Fae, the one thing I will give Fae above humans is a level of curiosity. Humans are ever curious. The Fae are dangerously curious. I mean, humans can be too, but the Fae take it to the extreme. When a Fae wants to know how something is made, they will do straight up all the way down to split the atom, make atomic bomb. Okay, so that's how that works. How about this thing next to it? Like they'll just when the Fae are curious about something, they want to know every single possible aspect because they have that level of power over reality.
So Robotech 00 has a question.
Oh, hey man, I haven't seen you here before.
So as a noob to the Fae, what book is this from? We're not really following any one particular book. For example, I use a lot of Fae that are rooted in Irish mythology. So most of the Fae I use are the Fae of Tir na Nog or Megmel, the ancient Irish Fae. And if you're going to use Fae, I do recommend doing research of your own to whatever Fae you want to use. There are Fae of the Norse lands. There are Fae. I mean, yes, you could use the Fae in whatever printed material for the game engine that you're running, but I find it far more fascinating to use the Fae that exist within mythology because they are far more mysterious. Anyone else want to jump on that?
Well, and I mentioned before, I use stuff from Iron Druid, from the Junkyard Druid, the even some more obscure titles like Bubba the Monster Hunter, things along those lines. Even going to in tune with the Dresden Files. So I mean that you can kind of pile all that together and kind of sift through it and see what you like, see what you don't like. Okay.
I use a combination of Exalted, Changeling of Dreaming, and Legend of the Five Rings put together. So a lot of what I say it comes from one of those three sources. Most of the first two, I haven't had a chance to go to True Weavery yet. That's for another night.
I like using and reading. I'm like Jade. I use a lot of Irish mythos. I like Eastern European mythos. Uh, Chasing the Green Fairy when I have nothing else to do that night. Uh, if you know, you know. Um, and just whatever I read. I mean, there is a mountain of material out there you can mine from some really good movies to some really horrible movies and everything in between. Merlin was Sam O'Neill from the guy from Jurassic Park. It was a Hallmark movie or something like that where he played Merlin and had a lot of Fae stuff in it that was interesting.
Sci-fi.
Was it sci-fi? Okay. Well, it came out when I was like in junior high, so if I don't exactly remember where it came from. But there's a bunch of stuff out there. Just be careful what source you're using from of it. Some of them, some books out there are not exactly. I want to say, use the Fae kindly. And if you're DMing at a table with a bunch of nerds, and there's always that one who is a third level wizard at the local Renaissance fair who knows more about Faes than Faes do, you might run into some issues with that. King nerds, would be the best way to put it.
I love King Nerds. As hey RPG Grandma, how you doing, hon? My sources for my Fae, whenever I'm running a game, especially, I'll look to a lot of North American legends of the various spirits that have been witnessed. A lot of crypto accounts. I know that sounds kind of weird, but the cryptids are a rich source that not many people really use. And when you use those, a lot of initial reaction is really like, "Are you serious? We're dealing with Sasquatches here." Okay, yeah, we are. But then, if you just will take some narrative hints from, I'll just say Stephen King, where the world gets thin and you cross over from one world to the next, and you don't realize it initially. You let the players kind of know, in a way, one way or another, that they are in a realm where their normal laws of physics and reality may not apply. You're also playing an RPG where you can say magic missile and reliably do d4 plus 1 damage. So whatever level it is that you need to breach the players, like, this isn't normal. However you do that. I do recommend that whenever you're running these games, you don't try to stay on a standard linear path. Let the players explore. Let them stumble into areas or have mishaps happen. These games are supposed to be fun and magical for a lot of good reasons. It's also a good idea from time to time to scare the ever-living hell out of them. And these realms of the Fae are a perfect place for it to happen, because a lot of this has been given to us in literature and various accounts from possibly sane or crazy people, however you look at crypto. It just depends on how you want to use your source as your narrative device. Your players will let you know how you did the next time you have a game. If everybody shows up, or if more people ask, "Hey, I heard your game got kind of wicked. Can I come in? Can I play?" When you have a table full of butts and seats ready to play, you're doing really good. When you're starting to turn people down because you're saying things like, "Hey, listen, I have 10 people already at the table," you're doing all right. That's your barometer of success right there. And let the players have fun. Don't let them go completely off the rails and slaughter everything for murder hobo's sake, but do let them have their time to shine when that time has arrived. I do recommend that. But as far as for Fae inspiration, I like to look anywhere I can find it. Be it Jim Butcher novels or Kim Harrison. There's some other really good novels out there. There's a ton. Just to look for urban fantasy novels on Amazon, and just go relax for an hour. Just browse. I think it'll be a lot of fun for you. You know, we could go with a third question, but I don't think we can really do that within the time allotted. I love Kai to pieces, but Kai, it's getting close to 9:30, and I don't want you to.
If we do a third night of this, I would love to talk about what does your favorite world look like as it kept up with the times for a modern era theme. Does it still look like the era, the Tudor era, or is it its
Well,
own?
then we can. Well, that could end up streaming straight at the theme for next week. Would be your Fae in the modern era. We haven't covered that at all. I mean, I did a tiny bit last week, but
Well, I don't think it's going to be next week because a bunch of us are going to be shoving our face
right.
turkey.
I forgot.
Yeah,
Okay.
You can keep your turkey. I'm gonna go with the brisket.
Ooh, that's it. I knew that's how
Sounds like go to party at Jade's house.
Hey, I offered to make him and his wife duck, so I don't know. Ooh, steampunk Fae. The more edgier of Fae.
I could see steampunk Fae being more of a thing if the game is set in more of a sci-fi setting. So, to me, the Fae aren't always like up to date on what the norms are. But we'll get into that next time.
Yeah, we definitely can get into that 2 Thursdays from now.
okay.
That's Castle Falkenstein right there.
It is.
We just
Hi.
a reminder,
Go ahead.
real quick, Bruce. Just a reminder, everyone, we will not be here next week due to the holiday. So we will be back in 2 weeks. So definitely make sure you mark the calendar, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you see when we go live. And then that way you will be able to catch the next episode. All right, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, Saturday night, me and Chimerian are going to discuss Magic in a Campaign World. It was on a previous episode of our friends Biggest Geekus. Joe and Randy dissected Magic a little bit, and we're going to go through their questions and just kind of discuss things. No, wait, that was Gatekeepers. My bad. What was the Gatekeepers you had last week, Jade?
Last week was powerful characters.
Yes.
Oh dear God.
Leave God out of this nonsense. He has better things to do.
Thank you, Flighty. I've got a conundrum that I have. I was supposed to yesterday do a giveaway drawing, and one of my members has gone hog wild. He didn't have to do it, and he's right here in the panel. It's a Crafting Gamer. There was, I don't know if there was a show for Gatekeepers last night or not.
There was not. I'm working 50 to 60 hours this week, and I had a case of mush brain on trying to come up with a topic. So sorry, I wasn't able to produce a topic for last night.
Hey, Bruce. What are you doing? What are you doing with Kai on Saturday? Sorry.
We're discussing powerful characters.
Watching the show and then talking about it as if because we weren't on the panel, so we want to still talk about it because it was a cool show.
I want to talk about
Thank
it.
you.
I wasn't on the panel either.
I'm going to be at a wedding. Otherwise, I'd offer to join you.
Hey, we had you as a virtual host recording.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You will
Fair
be
enough.
there in spirit and in voice, but not you personally. The simulacrum says yes.
Maybe I need to go put chapters in it so I can capture the questions for you. Oh no, wait, I put slides in it so it shows the question on the screen. Never mind.
Thank you.
Where the hell have I been? I didn't notice that. Oh, Jesus.
At 9
Maybe
p.m.
you should be
that's what
watching.
happens at 9. At 9 or whenever my previous stream ends, because this Saturday and 2 Saturdays from now, I am running the alpha test group. The Heroes of Ream is what that's turning into, or the Duchy, the Heroes of the Duchy of Ream. They'll be doing that session Saturday, and then 2 Saturdays from now because my regular game is getting preempted because of holiday silliness. I love the holidays, don't get me wrong, but I really don't like the fact that like the holidays get in the way of our
Good
regular
game.
things like game. I know, like, what do you mean you guys have to go see your family? No, you belong here at the table. Tell your aunt you'll see her next time that she's at a house on a Sunday, and you'll give her a kiss on the cheek and say thank you for thinking of us. But I really didn't want to have your dry ass turkey. Don't ever do that, by the way, guys. That's a don't say that.
So I'm going to answer Robotech's question real quick in chat. Robotech asks, powerful characters as in level or gear. Now I put into the private chat a link to the video of last week's Gatekeepers. The topic was powerful characters, and power takes form in many different ways. Gear and levels is just one form of power. But there are many forms of that power can take. It can be political power. It can be economic power. It can be, being able to sway the masses to your favor. That is another form of power. So as far as power is concerned, we talk about many different ways that players can be powerful that aren't just murder hobos and not just level power.
Yes.
So I invite you to go give the episode a watch, and if you like it, leave a like, and if you have further questions on it, drop a comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I'd like to say hello to a friend I haven't seen in a while. Well, I saw her with our friend author Stephen Walton not long ago on one of his streams. Hello, Ashley Lynn Gaia Storm. It was actually I wasn't on that stream. Might have been on another stream. I'm sorry, dear. But I've seen her lately in other chats. But hello. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Six Nation says, holidays, relatives, jury, duty, marriage, speed bumps, and a tabletop RPGer's quest for epic gaming experience.
Jury duty? They know better.
Yeah. Anyway, Saturday at about 12:30, I should be turning on everything to get us going for the alpha test. So Flady, Six Nation 31 Kings, the Crafting Gamer, and everyone else that's involved with that, please, I'll be posting that information in our Discord, but we'll get everything squared away. And if you guys cannot be there, I understand it. There are other things that are more important than getting your virtual character experience. I do understand, as much as it grates my teeth, as much as I grind my teeth on that.
Okay, I'm going to be showing up this coming Saturday. I got to teach Janet from Another Planet a new word.
Oh God! last time you did that, I about had a small seizure, but it's okay.
Not as bad as it was at Six Nation had it come over his TV, and he had to tell his mom, "Don't look that up."
Don't look it up, Mom. Don't look it up. Okay. Friday night, me and Janet are on the shit show on her channel. Anybody doing thing for tomorrow night?
Tomorrow's Friday.
Name-wise. Friday?
Friday, I'll be at a game, but it won't be online. I'll be playing Starfinder. I'm playing a bear. Oh yes,
Bears are awesome.
Bears are awesome, Scott. Then Sunday. Me and whatever people decide to show up on this Sunday, we'll be doing reviewing the 1970s. I don't know 100% what year. 1970s, I think. MASH, the TV series, the movie, not TV series, the movie that started the TV series. Then maybe later on that night, me, Victor, and maybe the bear, if it is this coming, if it works out, we'll be reviewing the 13th Warrior. So,
I made a faux pas there. Last time I did tune into one of his shows, it was about a half year ago. My bad. Okay, now that I look like a fool.
No, like a Bruce.
Ashley's a very cool person. She's very handy mechanic. She's a mechanic.
I like handy mechanics. Yes, I'll go with that.
I think she runs more of a tow service, if I remember right.
Mechanic
good
here
to see
too,
though.
right there,
Yeah, there is
right
a
below me.
that guy right there. Oh,
Yeah,
It-
this fella right here, he's very good with cars.
I mean, it. I mean, as long as you're willing to listen to me curse up a storm when I bust my knuckles on something, sure.
Why? We record that.
Yeah, well, Shade Tree Mechanics. It's getting harder and harder every year.
I'm glad you could stop in, Ashley. Jade, aside from the regular things you're doing, you're really busy with work. Are you going to be doing pretty much just this show or maybe Gatekeepers throughout the week? I know next week is going to be kind of messed up because of the holiday, but
Well, for Gatekeepers, so Gatekeepers happens every Wednesday at 7:30 Central in the evenings, and I think we might have a topic for next week. I might have to put some development towards it, but I think we're covering the topic of weather in your games and whether or not it's important to run with weather and what kind of effects weather has on the general feel, flow, or even combat situations that come up during games, and how it can actually be a fun thing to add to a game.
Seems it could be
it's
interesting.
a lot of fun.
I mean, could you imagine trying to fire arrows in a windstorm? No, because it'll knock the arrows off course, unless you're upstream of the wind, in which your arrows might be carried with even greater velocity towards your foes. But wind is a fickle thing, and it could change directions at any time.
Wise man once said, "Do not piss in the wind. Go get on your shoes."
I want to watch that show that you have next week then, because weather plays a big part in sailing, and being where the players are on every other Saturday. I mean, that's a possibility.
Oh,
And
down.
the other aspect you have to think of about that with weather is there are some druid magics or nature magics that are very much affected by the weather outside. Call lightning is just one of the spells in T&D where druids, if it's actually already storming outside, the lightning that hits harder if there's a storm. So lightning or storms can play a huge part in a game. Oh, well, thank you. I worked very hard with this microphone and OBS software to make sure that my audio is good for you to listen to, because it used to be crap before. So my hard work is paying off. Thank you.
I think she's also referring to the fact you have one of those voices that people could just listen to.
I mean, it's not as smooth, let's say, as GM Cody. I mean, he's very morning, cup of coffee type voice. And you got Bear, who sounds like he's your favorite sports announcer. But Jake, yeah, you come in close to it.
Okay, you have not lived until it's 4:00 in the morning, and you're sitting here, and all of a sudden, Mr. Max Bouvon comes on.
Oh, yeah.
And normally he's all like, "Oh, tapata." But no, he comes in and he's all like gravelly and everything else. You're like, oh, now that's the voice. That's the voice. Oh, I'm still so sleepy. Oh, yeah. The deep gravelly with the French accent. Yes, that just hit it perfectly.
Oh, I think I need to drink more.
No, you don't.
What? I have another 2 cases of beer I have to go through before it goes bad.
I haven't had a beer in 2 weeks.
Well, I drank enough for everybody last week.
I'll tell you what. After I think tomorrow we're going to the Only Feet. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah. If anybody wants to know why I'm drinking after tonight's stream, this is why.
Those are ant bites 2 weeks after the actual bites happened. I got chewed up on an anthill. I didn't realize the concrete was basically just a sounding board to let the ants know, hey, guess what? There's bugs here. So I found where the bugs were at. Not really happy about that, but I got to go to the doctor tomorrow and get that shot taken care of so I can get this accentuated, because I've got some lotion, some cortisone, I've got some apples, I've been eating apples because that's supposed to help push things around. Lemons are good. I've been rubbing them with not lemons and then apple cider vinegar, rubbing that on the skin, trying to get the swelling down. And all the swelling now has gone to my foot after like 10 days. It went to my foot. I'm like, I hope I can work Friday. That's all I want. I just need to be able to get to work and do work. That's all I want. But,
Is your local area having a ball Tom Selleck contest? Because I'm just saying.
are you
Very quickly down under.
But Garrett, do you have Baron G-Rock, do you have anything going on stream wise in the next week and a half?
Not that I'm aware of, but depending on how things go on next Thursday, I might fire up a chill stream. Who knows?
Oh, you
Put it in our Discord, the Table Breakers chat message. Let people know, because I'm sure that there might be people that want to get on. And then when you do it, I imagine it will summon people. For ants, I don't know about your local neighborhood. What I found works best. Like, I had an infestation in one of the plumbing vans for a while, and I used a fipronil laced bait that was a protein base. Fipronil is a very good ingredient for active ingredients, because what that does is that it makes the chitin hard for it to shed. And so ants and whatever targeted insect it is that eats that, they eat the fipronil laced bait, and then they have a hard time shedding their skin, but their insides grow and continue to push out. And it will wipe out a colony. Thank you, Ashley Lynn. I truly appreciate that. So if you have an ant infestation problem, I do recommend fipronil as your main go-to ingredient. Crafting Gamer.
Not this week. I produced a video last week, and I can guarantee a video next Saturday. Or not this coming Saturday, but the week from Saturday.
Okay. Well, Kai and I will be available Saturday night after our game in the afternoon, and look forward to seeing everybody there. Appreciate everyone being here this evening. If there's any questions you guys have, if you have something that pops up in your head afterwards, go ahead and drop that in the comment section. We would love to have comment reads at the start of our videos. Last time on Table Breakers, and just do the comment, just read it right there, and hopefully, do it in the perceived tone that you write it in. We do want to do that. Appreciate everybody that's jumped on the memberships here. For the giveaway, I have a solution, because I had a problem at first. I have one guy that signed up for he wants to be the Dirty Campaigner. That's great. Thank you, Flady. He didn't have to do it, but really, I do appreciate it. So I was going to, okay, how do I judge that versus everything else? But then I have the Crafting Gamer, who he's bought 5 or 6 different memberships for people, maybe 8, I don't know. I'm like, man, I told him I'd be doing this the 15th. So I'm just going to backdate it to the 15th. I'm going to draw one lucky individual out of the whole member list. One of those people is going to get one of the giveaway items I have, which you guys know that I'm a big fan of Duke Cannon soap. They just gave me like a whole big endorsement of soaps not long ago. So anyway, I'm going to give one to a lucky winner. I'm going to give one to Flady. I'm going to give one to the Crafting Gamer. So I'm mailing out 3 boxes of soap to you guys. Appreciate you guys jumping on the memberships. You didn't have to, but that's my way of giving back. And I know that sounds really weird, but I want you guys to have a good existence. One of the easiest ways to do that, if you're doing a lot of face-to-face time with people, smell good, be clean. And it's very simple to do. This is something that you would normally, this is not something you'd normally not do. I'm not trying to change your mind on what you should use or scrub with, but these soaps, are just badass, and they give you quite a bit of bang for your buck. They're 10 ounces of happy lather. Okay, you get that with water and your body hair, and you will have lather for minutes. It's great. Yes, Flady, you didn't have to, but I appreciate it. I really do. The
I'm
first
trying to figure out how I can become a member so I can get a damn bar of expensive ass soap.
Well, it's not that expensive. I mean, what's the minimum
Jesus.
wage?
It smells like bacon. It doesn't
They
taste
haven't-
like bacon.
Okay, Connell, they've got a big display of it at Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart's just jumped on to Duke
I don't
Cannon.
see it. I haven't seen it at Walmart. What I do see at Walmart for soap is normally that the other one with the Bigfoot guy on it.
You're talking about Dr. Squatch, which
Dr.
lasted
Squatch.
about a week.
I've heard a lot of bad things about Dr. Squatch.
Dr. Squatch smells good. It does lather, but it disintegrates fast. And that's my biggest complaint about it. These here will last me 2 weeks minimum. If I keep it in the bathtub with me whenever I'm doing my Epsom dip, these things will stay together for about 2 weeks. But if I just like conservatively will just get it, wet, then put on the washcloth, then lather up or the loofah for the wife, whatever. Either way, 4 weeks has been about the average. And that's not bad. I'm a plumber. I know what smells bad, and I want to smell good. So I'm just telling you that from my perspective, Duke Cannon is your buddy. Anyway, I'll be doing the drawing here in a separate stream. I'm gonna get things set up, and I'll do all that. I'll show that out. Lady's like, I was cool with Dr. Squatch until it took Star Wars back and I had to drop him. Yeah, sorry. 30 years ago, be like, so
I'm still a Squatch user.
as an adult, it's almost as sweet as a new socks, a shave, and a haircut. Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
So
I look forward to my haircuts, unlike other people on this show.
For those guys already mentioned, just go ahead and get me your information through the Discord so I can mail it off, and appreciate that. For the individual that I'll be doing the drawing for here in a video shortly, I'll be posting a video and you'll be seeing that, but it's not going to be on this. I just wanted to let you guys know what my plans were as a member-bearing portion of the YouTube community. So thank you so much for giving me that time, guys. Anybody have anything to say before we adjourn?
Remember, if you drink coffee, drink out blackout coffee.
Blackout coffee. Absolutely.
Yeah, funny looking. I just want to say, for those who are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving next week, be good to each other. Maybe sneak off with your cousins you like. Play some D&D, some RP games. It's all right, Grandma and Mom and everybody else will be upstairs cooking and bitching about their husbands, your fathers, your uncles, so forth and so on. Trust me, I know how this goes. I was a husband and father, and I was bitched about a lot. But besides from that, grab your favorite family members, go find a game to play. Go find a quiet place, roll some dice, play some cards. Make the gaming hobby a part of your holidays because it makes it go faster.
You know, Connell was expecting that cousin comment to take a totally different direction with you.
Me
When
too.
he said
I
cousin
mean-
comment, I just immediately thought of the Irish Saturday Night Live where they had the kiss, find your sweetheart, and like the two contestants out of the three contestants are cousins to the guy that's up for grabs. And
I mean, I was expecting him to get kicked, but
yeah,
What? I can be respectful.
Sometimes.
She's seen backstage. He's like, ah!
yeah, I see him. He's upset. Ashley, appreciate you being in here tonight, guys. If you don't mind, she is a individual that has been around the community that I've been kind of associated with for about maybe 4 years ago, till about a year ago, and I'm going to just say that she's been very honest, and she's been a real sweetheart. Although I should probably be a better friend to her and say hi to her more often. Go ahead if you want to give. If that's her YouTube channel, she does occasional chats and such. If you want to give a subscribe to her, she does have an active community section, and she's a very, very fun individual. So I do appreciate you guys being good gentlemen. Thank you so much. RPG Grandma, Soy Base Jeremy, Six Nation, 31 Kings, of course, Miss Ashley Lynn Gaia Storm, Lady One, Mar Hockman, trying to go through here and grab other characters that have popped up in the chat.
Characters is using
Robotech.
Robotech, dang it,
NZ,
where'd your Robotech go? I'm
NZ,
sorry.
Johnston, Huntress. Blah, 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 blah. I'm looking through my list that I've got over here.
I just
Hillbilly. Thank you guys for joining me tonight.
And Mr. Bear, the Gen X GM. You didn't have to join the membership, but I do appreciate that. I don't know what the next giveaway will be, but I do know we'll probably do another one here, probably for the start of the year. I figure quarterly is pretty good for that. And we'll be discussing things of fun natures on this channel in the very near future. Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Very much appreciative of that. For you, for yours, for your family, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.